Hello comic book fans. Here's Earl Grey with the second episode of my Best of 2016 videos, in which I sum up what I think were the best collected editions, omnibuy, graphic novels, hard or softcover trades of the year 2016. Each episode is devoted to one genre. In this video I'll talk about crime comics. First, we have two honorable mentions. Rich Tommaso's Dark Corridor is a classic comic noir, despite the pretty colors and the pretty art from Tommaso, which I dug quite a lot. The story, especially to the end of it, couldn't held up to its promises, maybe because the series was truncated to just 7 issues due to low sales figures. Real Deal Comics collects the same titled comic books from 1989 and later. They were created by one Lawrence Raw Dog Hubbard and Harold R.D. Bone McElwee, one of the few, or two of the few, Afro-American comic creators, which makes it interesting. And I like the wild drawings from Harold McElwee, even though the actual stories in this book are a bit too wild and extreme, even for me. But somehow that was the intention, I guess, to throw all these explosions, killings and rapings and over-the-top racial stereotypes in your face. I don't know. If you're interested in this kind of thing, you'll definitely get a lot of bling for your buck. Fantagraphics did a tremendous job once again with this nice, oversized, very well-made book. Continuing with the theme of testosterone-laden books and starting my actual top 10 with rank number 10, here's Benjamin Marra's American Blood, a collection of different lowest brow comics he had published through his own imprint Traditional Comics. To give you an impression of what it's all about, I'll read some of the blurb on the back cover for you. There is, for an example, the comic book Zorion the Sword Lord. And when the space gods created the universe, they did so by using a powerful tool, the Phaser X. But when the Phaser X goes rogue, the space gods must create Zorion, a space barbarian of the ultimate future dimension. Or here, the Naked Heroes. They are a red-blooded American rock band. On an interdimensional tour, they meet a giant bicephalous hermaphroditic demon centaur, and it's not a fan. Or another comic here, Maureen Dowd. In the CIA and Hezbollah, if the CIA and Hezbollah attacked you on the same day, you might be too tired to fuck by the end of it. But you are not Maureen Dowd and you don't have a date with George Clooney. And so on and so on. And there's a series called Blades and Lasers, which is actually a brilliant title. This is definitely not for your kids. Lots of gore, some sex, and most of all, a total absence of political correctness. If you can't deal with that, stay away from that book. For all the others of you pulp-loving underground fans with extreme lowbrow taste and or a strange sense for irony, here's something for you. On 9, we have The Big Hoax, in German Der große Schwindel, drawn by Domingo Roberto Mandrafina and written by Carlos Trillo, whom you might know because of his cooperations with Alberto Breccia, Juan Gimenez, Eduardo Risso and others. The artwork of Mandrafina reminds me a lot of Jacques Tardy, especially his depiction of the main villain here is very Tardy-esque, but overall he's such a fantastic draughtsman that his artwork is very unique and old school at the same time. This book seems to have been published by Dark Horse about 15 years ago, but maybe just in comic book single issues. Honestly, I don't know. But what I know, the mini publisher Erco put out this German version as a hardcover edition in 2016. Anyhow, you maybe won't believe it, since you spent already some time looking at this lush comic art, but the real selling point here is the story. The dictator of a banana republic has an incestuous relationship with his niece. The official scribe comes up with the idea to sell the same girl to the masses as a healing virgin to propagate sexual abstinence. And this virgin/niece gets blackmailed and searches the help of an alcoholic ex-cop who happens to be the brother of a scheming politician. Sounds a bit confusing, but it's actually very easy to follow, despite Trillo constantly breaking the fourth wall and using several co-narrators, almost like Bert Brecht goes comics. Anyhow, no wonder that Trillo once won the Best Scenario Award in Angoulême with it. On 8, it's volume 2 of The Humans, wrapping up the apeshit punk rock, drug-slinging, shit-flinging extravaganza. But don't worry, dear monkey lover, Tom Neely and Keenan Marshall Keller promise to continue the saga around this furry biker gang. Like Benjamin Mara, they keep up the spirit of underground comics, and, funny enough, they named one of the monkey bike riders Mara after their artist friend. To sum it up, The Humans is just irresponsible comic fun galore. Actually, it's a wonder that this book ranks not higher in my top 10, but the only reason therefore is there were plenty other collected editions with stunningly brilliant crime comics in 2016, like 13, drawn by William Vance and written by Jean Van Hamme. The collected edition, volume 2 and 3, were published 2016 in German by Carlsen, and they are my rank number 7. Very likely William Vance's best work, mostly due to the great script of Van Hamme. It's a crime mystery, espionage, counter-espionage plot with uncountable twists and turns, absolutely gripping and very hard to put down after you started reading. I talked in Panellogy 32 and 82 about William Vance's other works, and an episode devoted to 13 is absolutely coming up someday. On 6, it is Murder by Remote Control from Paul Kirchner. Avant-garde, surrealistic, underground art disguised as an Hitchcockian whodunit story. Highly recommended. Watch my Panellogy 117, in which I rave more extendedly about this almost lost gem of a book. Rank 5 is the beautiful, oversized deluxe hardcover of Deadly Class. The story takes place in the 80s and follows around Marcus and his misadventures at an high school for assassins. The school itself is a bit like a very dark version of Hogwarts, where you learn the arts of killing instead of magic. Despite this obvious unrealistic plot device premise, there are some bitter political comments on the Ronald Reagan era, which have regained some importance recently, unfortunately. Wes Craig's art can be described as some kind of modern version of ligne claire, maybe a bit similar to David Aja, and it looks beautiful in this oversized format. At the latest, when you read the sequence, I believe it was chapter 5, where our anti-hero goes AWOL under an overdose of LSD, you will fall in love with this comic. In case you haven't noticed it, we are deep into the realm of comic book excellence. Quite frankly, it hurts me quite a bit to put at least the upper half of my top 10 in an hierarchic order. Difficult word. But anyhow, here's rank 4, Scalped. Many people consider this as their favorite series of all time, for good reasons. You may want to watch my panellogy 122, in which I give you my perspective on that book. To sum it up, Jason Aaron's writing is top-notch and as far as realistic storytelling goes, hardly to surpass. And our Guerra's art is just as good as the writing, as you can see. On 3 we have Mind Management from Matt Kindt. Volume 6 was published in January 2016 and concluded a fantastic mystery, espionage, conspiracy theory, crime, love and whatnot series. It started with a mystery of Flight 815, in which a whole plane in flight, including pilot, passengers and crew, suffered from total amnesia. Just one mysterious Henry Lime got away. He's one of a group of special persons who are gifted, or better, doomed with supernatural abilities. These abilities were trained and used by that special agency called Mind Management. This may sound a bit like another superhero comic, X-Men style, but really it's not. Absolutely not. In fact, Matt Kindt's catchy, loose art style looks sloppy at the first glance, and it is the antithesis to slick comic bravado, but it works totally, and especially his watercoloring is pretty elegant and artful in its own way. On top of it all, the books for themselves are beautifully made. Binding, paper, overall look. Dark Horse can't be praised enough for what they had done here. Rank 2. I just can repeat my praise that I have done in an extended version in panellogy 128. The Fade Out is, in my humble opinion, the best work from Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker, next to The Criminal. A crime noir thriller set in the Hollywood of 1948. It's much more than just a story about a murder, like all the crime comics in my top 10, by the way. It uses the historic background perfectly and gives us a deeper insight in the mechanics of the movie industry back then. Even though the actual murder story is fictional, of course. But I'll see the old Hollywood flicks with a little bit altered perspective from now on. So, drum roll please. In an unbelievably tough competition with really amazing crime comics, the number 1, just in my humble opinion of course, is the number 1 of the top 10 last year, and that is, still is, Stray Bullets. The new reprint of trade number 5 came out in 2016. Volume 6 was already published, I guess, in 2014. But now I could read all 6 volumes in the right order. Volume 5 collects the single issues 31 up to 41 and wraps up the original series that ended in the early 2000s. Respectively, as I have read, issue 41 was long overdue and wasn't published until the new series Killers started. Anyhow, in Volume 5 we can witness how Virginia Appleseed, aka Amy Racecar, goes back to school and unleashes a downright war between the two rival school gangs. A new player appears on the school ground who is at least as crazy as Virginia, so it's just a question of time until school rivalry turns into bloody murder. David Lapham understands it masterfully to create believable characters that act in sort of very logical ways in realistic settings, which become, more sooner than later, still believable characters that do or are forced to do outrageous stuff in totally unhinged situations. If you like to read cute comics with cozy people that ride into a pink sunset, this comic is so not for you, you can't even imagine. But if you like your comic peppered with a lot of crazy assholes, insane situations, random or not so random violence, Stray Bullets is certainly essential for you. There are a lot of relatable characters, but no one's character is flawless, no one's psyche is free of harm, which adds to the realism of the series. Typically, the most well-adjusted people in Stray Bullets are the killers. They are just doing business. So, this was my top 10 with the best collected editions of crime comics that were published in 2016. Next episode will be about a related genre, adventure comics. Stay tuned and thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.